Hey everybody, my name is Inara Griffin, and I have the great pleasure to meet these two new friends. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Robert and Tanya, who wants to start?
Ladies first.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tanja Diamond, and I'm super excited to be here. Thanks so much for inviting us. And Valentine's Day, whew, wow, lots of pressure and excitement. So, looking forward to seeing what we can contribute today.
Yeah, my name is Robert Schwenkler, and I've been working with men for about 7 or 8 years at this point. Tanya and I have decided to team up together to help dudes learn how to really deepen and expand their intimacy, but also their power and their sex life and their love lives. And yeah, excited to bring this topic today and hopefully get to expand the worldviews of some men and help men get more of what they want in a way that helps women get more of what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Bring it on. So,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued that actually several people in this particular Be My Valentine event are focused on working with men. And in my own experience, I've only ever come across women who deal mostly with women or men who deal mostly with women. So there must be something about the divine masculine, emergence going on right now. Is that a term that you both relate to?
I'm not sure that to divine masculine as much as, we're standing for masculine empowerment. And I want to say that I've been working with men, and it was primarily men for 15 years. Now I've been working for over 35 years with everybody. But I think that I adore men, absolutely 100% adore men, and I adore how they want to show up, and I adore how they want to know the password to how these things work, and how so much they really want to embrace understanding their partner and women, and from a really sincere and beautiful place. And I wish more women saw that and knew that and were able to see the things that I've seen from men. So I'm entirely love men.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with the word divine masculine. I use it occasionally. I resonate with it. And really what I hear when you say that word to me is just the part of any human being, but we're talking about we're speaking a little more specifically to men right now. The part inside of a man that just knows how to show up and bring his truth and lay it on the table with confidence, with groundedness. We're going to be talking in a romantic context. So, in the context of being interested in a woman, he knows how to show up and just own his self-worth, knowing that he's got something really valuable to bring to the table, regardless of whether this woman wants it or doesn't. That means nothing about his intrinsic value. His
Absolutely.
presence, his desire are good. They're forces for healing. They're forces that are life giving in the world. And his capacity to bring that honestly and powerfully, but also vulnerably and with attunement to the other person, and really finding that place again, like I talked about, where it becomes just an exponential win-win for both. When you talk about men bringing the divine masculine, that's kind of what comes up for me.
Well, I definitely agree with that part of it for sure. And I think that men embodying the masculine, not being afraid to be masculine, I would say also would be divine masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, the term also means we look at divine masculine and feminine, it's also within ourselves. So it's very much an inward journey, and we're not talking gender. We're talking the expressions of movement, sometimes power dynamics, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to let you guys lead into this because
All
you're the
right.
one to go for it. Which one wants to go for it? Tanya does.
I would love to hear you, Tanya, because for me, this is such, on a very personal level, this is such a touching thing. And I love how honestly and fully you bring it. I would love to hear you talk a little more about why you love men. Because, like you said, there are so many messages. And you and I both work with a lot of men who get these messages that somehow men are intrinsically bad or harmful. We need to watch our step. We need to be careful all the time. We need to hide our desires and kind of smush them down, or else we're going to be a creep. And that has the effect of men are just really kind of squashing their life force, and they're squashing the beauty and the joy that's that they have the potential to bring to the world. So you've got great stuff to say on that. I would love to hear you speak to it some.
Well, absolutely. And I think that if I look back on the 35 years of doing this work, I would say like 35 years ago, I didn't see as many men that were as scared to bring their masculine forward as it's become more and more, especially in the last like probably 7 or 8 years. I see a lot more fear in good men owning a few bad men's behaviors, or a few men's bad behaviors, let's say that. And so I think that that whole idea of I'm a man and I'm supposed to be this and that and the other, but if I'm too powerful and I'm too sexual, then I'm an aggressor. And if I'm an aggressor, that's not okay. That's a turnoff. I don't want to be one of those guys, but I don't want to be those guys. So there's a lot of confusion, is what I really see. And it makes me sad, of course, because I think there's nothing more powerful and romantic, even the idea of romance, even romantic, powerful, and exceptional than a man who's unabashedly afraid to stand in his masculine, including his sexual desires, and bringing all that forward. And that's what women want. Of course, we don't want the guy that's like, discounts us and isn't present to how we're feeling. But where is all that being taught? Nothing. Guys, you got to go get you some. So guys are like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to approach her confidently and just kind of go for it. And then in the same token, they're not being taught, like, if the woman's got her headphones on and she's reading a book, she's probably not the time to walk up and lay some line on her. You're not paying attention. And so I think that it's incredibly important for men to understand, especially from a woman's perspective, that we want all those amazing gifts you have, and you can help heal us with the amazing gifts you have as a man in your presence. And to understand how to bring that forward is the stuff you bring, Robert, which is a kind of 100% presence. When you show up, you're present. So you're attuned to what's happening in the moment, and not just, here's my agenda that I'm going to lay on you, and then I don't know what to do and I'm confused and freaked out when you don't accept it. So it's
And
that
the
subtlety.
and the agenda can look two ways. It can look like I'm just going to barge forward and not be really aware or attuned to the impact I'm having in the space. My agenda can also be, I'm going to just hide myself in the world. I'm going to
Right.
lean back, and because I'm walking around with this lens of somehow I'm shameful or bad for being a man. So I'm just going to,
Yeah.
either way, you're actually just projecting a bunch of stuff onto women. Like, do women need safety? Yes. Do women need, you know, some of these certain things that men are being taught these days, especially in the wake of Me Too, um, in terms of like attunement, and for men to not barge forward mindlessly? Yes, they need that stuff. But we're talking about these two polar dynamics. We're talking about a guy who is just disconnected and unaware and trying to get what he wants without any regard for what somebody else wants. And we're talking about guys who have learned to hide it all. They've swung to the other side of the pendulum. And there
Right.
really is a way to bring both. And that happens when, like I was speaking earlier, when you learn how to own your value as a man. The fact that what there's a few things. There's a lot of guys who are scared of being the creep. There's also a ton of guys who are just scared of rejection. Pretty natural thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's two antidotes. There's an antidote to each. To the former, to the I'm scared to look like a creep, it's this process of learning how to bring your desire and lay it out on the table without expectation. I call this desire without demand. It's learning how to say, I find you really attractive, or hey, I'd really love to kiss you right now, or whatever the desire is that it happens to be in the moment, appropriate to the level of rapport that you have built with the woman. It's learning to just put that out on the table, and without needing a particular response from her, without needing her to reciprocate, um, and then without getting butthurt and ashamed about it either if she doesn't want to play that game with you, because there are a lot of women out there, whatever the game that you want to play is, whether it's monogamy or just dating around and having a sexploration, or we work with guys who are even in their 30s who haven't dated anybody or had a real partnership for like 10 years,
Or ever.
or ever. Yeah.
I've certainly seen more and more of those men showing up, like
Yeah.
just failure to thrive in romance and sex lives.
Yeah. And there's an acknowledgement of the value that you bring. And you use the word presence. And that, in my mind, is one of the best, most essential ways that you can sum up the value that a man has to bring. I talk to so many women who are like, where are the men showing up? And,
Yeah.
showing up how I want them to. Presence is one of the keystone elements that, in my experience, every woman that I've ever talked to is craving from
Absolutely.
men.
Yeah. And when you talked about safety, the ability for a man to receive a rejection, to receive a no, or to receive a just a little pullback. Like she's not 100% certain, so she's pulling back just a
Yeah.
little bit. And if you at that moment, like you said, get butthurt or get angry, and it's anger and frustration that I usually feel when that happens,
Yeah.
and that is the thing that kills it right there, because that does not feel safe. If a man is actually carrying underneath this frustration and anger for women and about women, and there's that happens quite a bit, that underneath lying, like, I women, what are the thoughts you have in your head? Like, women are bitches, they always reject me. Some men carry these subconscious feelings about women because maybe they were rejected by their mom or rejected when they were first dating. And when they're carrying that undercurrent, energetically, we feel that.
Yeah.
And so even the guy can be, beautiful and well mannered and bring all that. But if that underlying current is there, it doesn't feel safe.
And I want to bottom line that even a little bit more, because I know that there are men out there who are like, yeah, I love women, I don't have anger against women and stuff like that. And what might be a little bit more to put your finger on is, do you have an agenda? Basically, if you bring something to a woman, if you bring a desire or approach a woman or whatever it is that you're bringing in the moment, do you expect her to respond a certain way? Are you going to get butthurt if she doesn't respond how you want her to, instead of receiving her pullback or her kind of unsureness, or you know if she brings anything but an enthusiastic, totally positive yes,
Right.
can you just receive that as feedback? And maybe that's a sign that you need to adjust your energy, bring a little more playfulness instead. Maybe she's actually not interested. Maybe, like the capacity to read a woman, not take it personally, not have an agenda, and be in the moment with her, be present with her, is safety.
Absolutely. And there is a difference between liking to have sex with women and liking women, because really embodying the love of the feminine has a different look to it. And that's the story that I enjoy telling about the dude at the tantra event.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this guy who's at this event. Here's this guy at an event, and he's at this event because he believes that he's going to learn how to get laid more, and have more sex. And, he's a dude who's not attractive on the scale of just, Hollywood or whatever. He's a lower level attractive in how he looks, but mostly in how he feels. Like,
Yeah.
when I see him sitting over there on the bench at the pool, ogling the women. Now, in this, I'm using these words purposely, ogling the women, leering at the women walking by, having this kind of needy, graspy energy coming off him. He looks like a little troll to me. And I'm kind of like, dude, seriously, what's going on? So I went over to talk to him, and, he was aware of how he perceived how he looked, but he didn't understand the energetic component. And so I said, hey, look, whatever you're doing isn't working. I was at a different event, and I'm like, how about I give you a couple of primers here and there, and you use them throughout the weekend and see what happens. And he was willing, because he'd spent a lot of money and time, dressing and doing this and doing all those external things that he thought women would want to make them want him. And so we discussed the fact that, yes, he liked sex with women, but when it came down to it, he didn't like women. He was scared of women. I mean, he was scared because he didn't really know what to do. And he thought women just wanted a guy that looked like this or that. And so he had all this upset. So we kind of worked through that. And then I was talking about, if you love women, like the feminine, it isn't just that skinny girl over there or that model over there. It's like you love the divine, now we'll use that, the divine feminine, and how she is and moves in the world and the things that make her feminine. Like you enjoy that, you love that, and you can see that in every woman. And when you start to see every woman as beautiful in that divineness that she is, they will be attracted to you in ways that you can't imagine. So last day, sitting there, I'm watching him, he's over there, he looks the same, but he feels different because this guy really got it. And so this woman walks by, women who had just ignored him all week, and in fact, moved as far away from the bench when they walked by as they could. All of a sudden, they're walking close, and one woman's walking by, and I see her stop. She turns back and looks at him like she was stunned. Like, why did she stop? And she kind of smiled and walked off. And then within the next few hours, then I see women stopping. Now he's got 5 women at the end of the day sitting around they're sitting around his lawn chair. He's sitting in the chair and they're all on the ground sitting around him, right? And he is beaming like nobody's business. And it was a transformation, an absolute transformation. Now, he physically didn't look different, but what he was bringing, that love and appreciation and admiration, and these words that are kind of like this, right? Instead of like, ooh, leering, look at your tits, look at your ass, this kind of thing. He was like, wow, women are beautiful, women are amazing, women feel great, and so
Yeah, and
that's what I was.
I want to break that down. I love that story so much because there are so many guys out there who think that they need to have six pack abs, a bunch of money in their bank account, and it's like, do women want a guy who knows how to dress well, who's not running around looking like a slob all the time? Generally, yes. They want a guy who can be fairly well put together. There's some truth to that. Are women attracted to guys' physical looks? Yes, there is some truth to that. Does it ultimately matter? Every single woman that I have talked to, my business partner Joshua tells the story about, and he's a good looking dude, 6'4", muscular, chiseled jawline. He talks about the time when he got cheated on by his college girlfriend by a not very good looking dude who weighed 300 pounds because this guy had confidence and my business partner didn't. But I want to break down the story that you're telling a little bit. Like I'm seeing just the fundamental shift that this man made on a core level. He stopped trying to get and he started giving.
Mm-hmm.
He stopped experiencing himself as low value and started experiencing himself as having value. And I imagine that there was on some level, a shift in the way he was holding his desire also, that a shift from the mindset of, my desire is not okay, to just kind of lay out on the table, to just holding it in a relaxed, more embodied way. Does that resonate for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because whereas before, all that energy, you're right, was that, grabbing kind of energy that he was putting out there. And then the other was that leering, but from a place of unhealthy space, just like looking at everybody like they were porn material for him to be in, and while still having that underlying current of really being scared and confused by women, and so he didn't feel safe either. So when, like I said, he got it super fast, because really I only spent like an hour and a half or something with him, but he was really ready to take this in and flip this change, and he nailed it. Because he went from that to, I adore you all. Like, I adore you. Women are awesome because they smell great, and they laugh, their laughter and just the things that make them women. He all of a sudden was like, yeah, you're right. Oh, this is great. And clearly. And I've seen that story when you talk about your college friend there and getting cheated on like that. There are so many stories like that when somebody's like, I don't understand why she left me for that guy. Well, that guy was present.
Yep.
Probably that guy really showed up. That guy wasn't only about, ooh, what's my performance? Because, I guess men don't understand that in the bedroom, even though almost every man I know wants to please his partner, it's like the super highest thing on the list, the affirmation, but they're also not understanding that way that they're doing it, that their performance needs to be validated,
Yeah.
is also a goal and agenda that's really not about her.
It's still making it about me.
Yeah, right. It's like, tell me how many times you came so I can click that button and say, look how awesome I I made you do that, instead of like, wow, this is a dance we share and this is this amazing experience we can have. And if everybody doesn't have an orgasm, it's still present. We were here, we were with each other, and that's really the beauty of that.
That's an
So
amazing story. Why did he let you go up to him and say all of these things to alter him? Because that's, what I mean. It's like a very interesting moment
Well,
to
yeah,
receive.
well,
I would
because
love to hear. I would love to speak to that, which is this piece that men really want to do. Uh, the words that are coming to mind are better and good. They're not the best words for the moment. Like men want to be extraordinary lovers. Men want to provide women pleasure. Men want to, do really good. We just haven't been taught how
what,
to.
what
There's a
that looks
lot of
like.
yeah, there's a lot of shame that a lot of men are carrying around that maybe has them be resistant to actually stepping into learning mode.
I can definitely speak to that. I've said, like, when I say to, man, like women say, well, why doesn't my man want to do these things? I want to bring him these books, workshops. And that's like, dude, are you serious? Like, he wants to find out one more thing he's doing wrong. Do you realize that most men live under this feeling that women are chronically disappointed with them? And it all starts
I
when
can
the
relate.
little boy is trying to help his mom do something and he doesn't do it quite right. The mom's super busy. She's a single mom or a mom or whatever. She just looks at him with, ugh, let me do it. Right there is one of the earliest woundings that men have around this whole situation of women being chronically disappointed in something they're not doing right or whatever. So when you try to, if a man feels that way and now you're going to say to him, hey, let's go, he's not having enough regular sex, but let's go do this tantric sex. And he's just like, oh my God, I can't even get the regular stuff right. Where's the freaking password already? Why do I have to go to this lofty place when I can't just do the regular thing? So you
Yeah.
said I saw you
Yeah, I
do.
mean that's been a lot of my story growing up. It's not just from mother to son, it's what's being modeled in the relationship, because most of us men haven't been modeled relationships where both people are truly in devotion to each other. Is the woman truly in devotion and in her praise to her man? Is the man truly in devotion and presence and devotional leadership? Most of us haven't been modeled that.
Absolutely.
There's the broader social context also, again, especially post Me Too, of women kind of being like, men, show the fuck up, get your shit together. And there are some men who are able to show up to that call valiantly, and there are a lot more men who are so buried under their shame that they have no safe, they don't have any safe spaces to go. This is another piece that is so clear to me that I don't think our broader culture gets, which is how much safety men actually need. I don't think most men get how much safety they need.
I definitely agree with that for
Yeah.
sure. It's it women will make that call like, I just want him to show up, I just want him to be present, I just want him to blah 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 blah. And then I'm like, and when he does, what do you reward him with? Usually it's using that moment of quote unquote weakness, which everybody's calling weakness, which it isn't, because it actually takes immense courage.
Mhm.
And that moment of weakness to turn around later and say, oh, did you see what you did there? Or what did you do there? And, emasculation. I see emasculation happen in relationships a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just not cool. It's not okay. That adoration needs to go both ways. We raise each other up. We're like, how do I support you in your greatness? Not how do I look for ways to tear you down even more? I mean, who wants to? There's no safety anywhere. Who wants to show up for that?
Yeah. And there's a lot that there's work on the side of women, and there's a lot that men can do, just like that story you told about that man. I love it. It is possible to create profound changes in a very short amount of time. We just haven't been taught how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and both parties, I mean, you can't, if you're in a partnership, you can't change your partner. You can work on your own dynamic, obviously. So on this whole Valentine's Day thing, while people are looking for this idea of romance and connection and having sex, and they're going to meet somebody new, what are you bringing to the table when you do that? Like Robert said, are you bringing an agenda? You know, I'm looking to get laid. Or are you bringing an exploration? I like to bring curiosity to an event.
Yeah.
You know,
And curiosity and presence are basically the same thing.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, oh, we're meeting. This is awesome. We have this feeling. That's really cool. How do we dance with this feeling? And you know, here's a thing that makes everybody, of course, completely nervous, which is typically the first kiss, right? Like, right, that first kiss, like, is it? In fact, I have a video on YouTube about the first kiss. But if the first kiss is one of those things where men will say to me, "So I don't know, you know, what is she doing that lets me know it's okay to go in for the first kiss?" Right? And you know, the seduction community or people will give you all this advice. Well, she's doing this, or she's doing that, or she's doing the other. Don't ask her, do ask her. You know, I'm all about bringing the curiosity, but attention, arousal, anticipation. Like if you're just moving minute, like closer, you know, and she's staying there, you know, that's a good sign. If you're bringing it closer, and you don't have to dive in, there's nothing worse than, you know, clashing your teeth. But, and all of a sudden you notice that she has motioned backwards a little bit, then you know it's a no. Don't rush in, just kind of stay, play with the energy. Don't feel like you have to rush it.
Oh
Oh
no,
no.
this is
Flower pot down, on aisle
yeah.
7.
Well, at the beginning. I'm gonna grab a cloth actually, so you guys carry
We'll
on.
carry
We'll
on.
carry on.
Well,
We'll carry on.
somehow. We'll carry on somehow.
So you don't need to know, you don't need to look for cues as much on that first kiss as you need to stay present and be aware of the energy. What do you think about asking?
This is the place where it gets down to an art, not a science, and learning what's your version of your art. And really, what I discover with guys is that the way we get in contact with is by doing the inner work to heal the shame, doing the work to learn how to become present and curious, doing the work to learn how to own our value. And it's been all different versions for me. There've been it's like tuning into what feels appropriate for the moment. I know this is like a
Wait, come on,
non-answer.
no. We want a
No, we
checklist.
want what's the checklist? I know guys love
I love
checklists.
the checklist.
So what I want to say about the checklist is I
love
want to
checklists
validate that,
too.
like, that's you looking for safety. For any guy who feels like you need it laid out, step 1, 2, 3, 4, tune in a little bit deeper and look at your need for safety. Find spaces, find places. Tanya and I do this work with men. There are plenty of other people do it. Find spaces and places where you can learn to be comfortable with your own nervousness, your own inner tension, because the more relaxed you can be around that, the more just intuitive and spontaneous and curious you're going to be, as opposed to like locked up and in your head and trying to figure it out up here. Like, it doesn't get figured out up here.
Yeah, well, that's the key right there, right? Like the in your head part is you thinking, or a man thinking, okay, she's doing this. I saw her do that. She touched her hair. Does that mean that means it's a go? And so that's still all performance based. It's still all in your head. It's
Yep.
still all thinking it through. When if you drop down energetically and physically, breathe and drop down into your body, drop down into your groin, you know, don't be ashamed of that feeling, as long as you're not leading with the expectation that you talked about or the performance, right?
Yeah.
But coming full force, bringing that energy there lets you assess the energy she's feeling and lets that dance play. But the thing for most women here, for most men need to understand that for most women, you can never make her wait too long if you're in the tension of it. So, you know, it's
We
not.
call this outslowing a woman.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before, but yes, absolutely. Because if you make her wait enough and that you're in that, you've got the tension going, and she thinks it's been too long, she's going to grab you and kiss you herself. I mean, that's going to be like, there she went over that edge. Need you now, which is a awesome place for everybody to be, because nobody's confused in that moment.
Yeah. And there is, in terms of that moment where I'm up in my head and I don't know whether to kiss her or not, there's a really freaking simple thing that you can do. This is true from moment one to moment 1 million in a relationship, by the way. Whenever you notice that you're up in your head, something's going on, you don't know what to do with it, is, God, you know what? I'm really turned on by you right now. And I'm totally up in my head about whether or not I should kiss you. And oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yeah. That's yep, yeah, absolutely. That's both charming and authentic, and there's so many awesome points on that one, because it's like it's real.
And just for you as a woman, how did it feel when I
Absolutely, like I said, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. You were like vulnerable and open and everything I want. Let me save you the trouble."
but also in, I'm not like just vulnerable in kind of a floppy way. I'm in
No,
my
no.
power as well. I'm like,
Yeah,
here I
absolutely.
am. I'm laying myself out on the table. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about you. And I'm going to own that I'm nervous also because this is vulnerable.
Yeah. One of the yeah, and this is not a PG rated thing, is it?
No,
Okay, great.
we've already
Because
sworn.
awesome. Because
No.
one of the most interesting sex experience I ever had was with this man who he's a 6'4" Johnny Depp lookalike. And he women are on him. He walks into a room and women are just like throwing themselves at him. And he's got all this training. He had been coaching, sexual training, tantra, neo tantra, whatever. He had it going on, right? And when he walked through a room, like I said, women and men wanted to be him, and all the women wanted him, and it was 100% clear, the whole alpha thing. And well, the first time we were going to have sex, we're making out, and all of a sudden he says, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey," and he goes, I just want to tell you something here, and I want you to know that don't worry, it'll be different and things will change. And I'm like, dude, what just happened here? Great makeout. What I like, Screech, what are you saying? And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, you trust me? And I'm like, sure. Okay. Yeah, fine. And literally we were done in a minute and a half. And I'm like, oh, now I see what he was saying. And then he said to me, he goes, you're so out of my league. He goes, I have never been so nervous to have sex with somebody. And I knew it was just nothing was going to happen but me just being done. And he goes, that nervous. So I thought, first of all, it was pretty charming, the vulnerability, the show up, the confession of that, and him knowing himself to say that. And did that make that first time sex bad for me? No, it was like, wow, that was a sharing bonding moment of him saying, you're so hot for me. I just know this is going to be like this. And for him to feel safe enough to say that and be there instead of running away or walking away or whatever, right? Anyway, it worked out great. 8 years worth of great. So
Oh, wow. Okay. So 8 years worth of great.
yeah,
Okay.
and it did change.
And I imagine it changed as he learned to feel safer and more comfortable with you.
Yeah, absolutely. As he learned that basically there was no judgment on my part about this, because to me sex isn't just about intercourse, and sex isn't just about
Yeah.
how long somebody lasts, but it's more like what your presence you're bringing to the table. And for him, he knew that performance, which most women were fine with, wasn't going to be work for me, because he knew that on an energetic level I was going to ask him to be more than he'd ever been in his life with anybody.
Yeah.
And so that was really scary to him. And
That
yeah,
that you needed presence, not performance.
right. And that just from the heart thing, and that I didn't care if we were good, bad, boring. To me, sex is about texture. And, it's not all about, oh, we're all coming together. And that's like, it's like sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. And that's awesome. That's what makes it interesting.
Mm. So I want to ask you guys, since it is an opportunity to give some do's and don'ts, I'd like to hear each of you say, what do you think the three most, I would say, intimate maneuvers, if you like, but it's not you're not using an agenda, but what is the most intimate way that you could move forward into something that you're interested in, whatever that might be?
Can can I ask you that we're on the same page with the word intimate? Are you talking intimate or are you talking sexual?
It can be either. I
Okay.
don't mind. Yeah.
All right. Robert, go. Let's see
Yeah.
what
So just kind of in terms of uh,
Context.
guidance for a man to deepen into more intimacy, is that essentially what you're asking?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you were to give 3 tips
Yeah.
about an authentic way of being in the world of intimacy, and we're talking Valentine's Day, which is an ancient love festival, so there's all of that expectation. What would you say are 3 things that you would say are super authentic, very also, I mean, this is going back to goal driven, like, so you can get it on, but I'm just saying, what would be 3 things that you would say would be good things to do? Because then I also want to hear 3 things that are not so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to answer your question in a way that might not be exactly what you're looking for, but it's what's coming up for me. Number one is get yourself supported. Notice during this conversation, as you're listening, if you're a man who wants more in his love life, in his sex life, notice where there's fear around performance, fear around rejection, where there's shame around your sexual desire. I guess that's step number one. Notice where that's going on.
Yeah.
Step number 2 from there is get some support around that. Don't try to do it alone. Don't keep trying to stuff it down into the dark corner like you've been doing for the last 1 or 2 or 3 decades. And Tanja and I provide that kind of support. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There are a lot of people who provide that support. Get a men's group, hire a coach, whatever it is. And then be honest about it. Like, the more that you are able to be honest with yourself, the more that you put yourself in spaces where you're accepted and approved of for all that you bring, not just the pretty stuff, not just the smooth stuff, not just the confidence, but also the shame and the insecurity, the more you are going to learn to inhabit yourself comfortably and relaxedly. And the more you're just going to be able to bring your full self to the table. That's what Tanja is talking about with that story with the Johnny Depp lookalike. That man was bringing his full self to the table. He wasn't trying to skip over his insecurity, but he wasn't collapsing around it either. He didn't skip over it and forge forward and pretend like nothing was wrong. And he didn't disappear either. He showed up for the challenge, and he was
Absolutely.
honest with you about it. So
Yeah.
the third tip that I would give, which I spoke to earlier in terms of, I'm really into you right now and I really want to kiss you and I'm kind of up in my head. There's a way to be honest and revealed and transparent when you know that that's going on inside of yourself, and when you've developed the capacity to hold yourself to a certain degree in that experience, then you can bring your full self to the table, and magical things happen from there, like deeper intimacy, more power, more confidence. All of the things that any guy wants, in my experience, happens from that place.
3 things that you might do to increase intimacy or sexuality in Valentine's Day or with a woman that you're interested in being with. Definitely would be one, everything Robert said. So we'll say that. So we'll go with 4, 5, and 6. So four, listen. Absolutely listen. There are a lot of preconceived myths and notions and things like that out in the world about what women want and how they want, especially around Valentine's Day, this whole idea of what is romantic. You know, a dozen roses makes me cry because I hate it when they die. I prefer a single flower. I do. It's so sad to me when they die. I can barely stand it. I prefer a single flower that was picked out because the guy knows a color that I like.
And I want to break that down a little bit. Be attuned to the woman that you're with.
That's
So this is what Tanja wants, but another woman might like it a little bit different.
right.
So
Yeah.
again, like,
So
there's a quality of listening in there. Yeah.
right. So listen, absolutely. If you've known her for a while, or and when you're paying attention, you will notice things like that. Did she stop at a store specific and say, "Oh, that's pretty," or "Oh, I love,
Yep.
daffodils," or whatever? You're paying attention.
Yep.
You're going to get some of your checklist that you want in that regard when it comes to these types of things. Robert covered the, what to do for, internally to get into that space. When it comes to things like the first touch or the first kiss, the first touch, remember, women feel energetically. They're even if they're not aware of it, they're feeling that. There's a thing called the glide. So instead of touching a woman like you would touch something, like this kind of a touch, even if it's her knee, right? This downward motion of a touch doesn't work as well as when you glide into a touch. Whew, even doing it on me.
I know.
Anyway, so
I know. It's
didn't it do
great.
that for you too? Yeah, absolutely.
I felt it.
Right? That glide to the knee,
Right.
that glide to the shoulder, that is like she feels that coming, that energy breaking right there. And by the time your hand, and not hard, just light, just be there. And it's like all the energy just blows up in your body. When it comes to kissing, okay, dudes, your tongue, 1/10 of the time, 1/10 of the depth, 1/10 of anything you think you need to do with it, back it off. Back it off. Yes, a lot of men think that, they're going to show you how they're going to have sex with you by tongue battling with you right off the bat. Don't do that. You can save that. Once again, the same thing, that anticipation of go in for that kiss and kind of be in the energy and take a breath before, you can go watch my video on YouTube. Take a breath before you even get there and just be totally wrapped up in that moment, right? And just wait a minute. Don't be afraid to just be in that space.
Outslow her.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even saying it, it's like, and when I've done these demos on stage, there was a heterosexual woman reporter watching this whole thing in a men's group, and I was trying to teach men this, and afterwards she comes up and she goes, I know I'm really straight, but would you kiss me? You got that kind of thing going on, dudes. You really understand that you don't have to race to anything. There's not a race to the goal. One of women's favorite things used to be the making out before intercourse ever happened, when you're virgin and you just made out. Women are like, wow, whatever happened to that? Why can't we do more of that? So have a kissing night. Don't feel like once you've got to the kissing, now you've got to go to the breast, you got to go to the crotch. Don't rush. Leave those first moments. I remember, a great date where the guy just, we'd touched hands and it was just so electric because of everything happening. And, when he kissed me, it wasn't a big makeout kiss. It was just this really absolutely phenomenal, energetic build-up kiss. And when he walked away, I was just like, oh my God, he left me wanting more.
Yeah. And I want to speak to that a little bit. There's this archetypal male desire of wanting a woman to just be begging for him or to throw herself upon him. And it's in contrast to the way that a lot of guys are both wired and taught to show up, which is to just go for what you want. But what I want to say to any guy listening is that you have a tremendous amount of ability and capacity and agency to create the circumstances that would have a woman begging for it, that would have a woman throwing herself on you. And it is within these secrets that we're talking about around. I hear you talking and I still hear presence.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because to do that dance, to build that energy, to feel the energy, 3 inches from your lips, and to build that static that's there takes presence. You have to be in your body, not thinking about your next move. It's not like, oh, I'm going to kiss her. Oh, she moaned. She liked that. Let me grab her ass. Now, okay, that's go to the butt. It's like that checklist needs to be out. Be in that moment, because a kiss, a handhold, a first time of anything can lead to memories that change the chemistry in the brain for how a woman thinks of you, that you are always on her mind, versus doing the same old thing that it's like, okay, right? And, a lot of women never date again, will not date a guy a second time if they hate the first kiss, which I think sucks. I don't think that's fair, because quite frankly, he might have learned how to kiss the last woman he was with in a way that she liked. And you may not like it, but you shouldn't throw the whole guy out because of that, ladies. Absolutely don't do that. But, making sure that doesn't happen, a man can do that. He can absolutely put it in a position where that experience doesn't happen like that. And that's by building that arousal and that attention to the arousal and being present. So you also wanted 3 don'ts. So I'll start with the 3 don'ts.
They were great.
Don't rush. Don't
those
rush.
yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of everything we're talking
Yeah, I was
about.
going to say it's pretty easy to do the don't. Don't rush. Don't have a checklist agenda. Don't assume it in porn. I'm probably the only sex teacher on the planet that may be telling you porn is destroying your ideas of sex and destroying your masculinity in ways that you probably don't even realize because of the brain chemistry it creates. So I say, don't rush, don't be in your head, don't. And if you're doing porn right now, I would let it go. And if you say it's not a problem for me, take the 30-day I'm not a porn addict challenge, which means go porn free for 30 days. And if me saying that just made you go, "Ah," or get mad, I know there's already an issue. So, but if you're white knuckling it to the end and day, 30 and 1 minute, you're on it, that there's a thing you're doing. And we talk about that when it comes to men's sexual healing, about why that's not so great and what to do and how to remove that so that you really aren't sucked into the chemistry of that and other ideas subconsciously of that. So those are my 3.
Yeah, and I'm going to sum all of my 3 up into one. Don't do it alone. You want to have a richer, fuller love and sex life, go get support. And the guy here listening is already getting support to some degree, so it's a little bit of a moot point, but notice the places where you are stopping. Notice the places where your shame comes up and that you're not willing to look at, where your insecurities come up, you're not willing to look at. Go put yourself in spaces where you're challenged and supported in a loving way to resolve that stuff. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
we're here.
handle it. Go get it handled. Basically, show up to the game, bring your full self, and get that shit handled, because there's incredible things on the other side for you, and you get to create some extraordinary experiences for women as you continue leaning into this.
Absolutely.
So would you guys, I don't even know what you would describe yourselves as, as
What are we even?
What are
Awesome.
you?
What are we?
I'm awesome. What?
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing right now. We have a training for men called Sexual Healing of Men. It's a 10-week course that we're partnering up. We're newly partnered up, but both of us have, we're all bringing our deep levels of experience to this offering. And we want to create a space for guys to really learn how to basically do all of the stuff that we talked about throughout this conversation.
Yeah, it starts
And
March 27th.
yeah.
And we can get you a link to an information page where men can sign up to get the details as they come out on that course.
Well, and we've got a website. By the time this is up, we'll have the website. We'll be all the way live. It's Sexual Healing Men.
Yeah.
Sexualhealingmen.com.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So we're excited to bring this collaboration together and to help men just really be all they can be, empowered, masculine, not to be afraid anymore, not to be worry about what to know, what to do, because when you do take care of yourself, when you become self-managed and self-resourced and heal some of these deep wounds and the shame, really there isn't anything you can't accomplish. Just remember the dude on the bench sitting there, and he only got an hour and a half. So imagine what 10 weeks will do for you.
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you very much, both of you. It's been so fascinating actually listening. I really relate to the advice from the other side, and I'm sure people will connect with you. And I just want to say, thank you so much. Namaste. And I think we'll end it there. Do you want to say anything else to end?
I want to say thank you to you, and thank you to your cat also for just being such a beautiful presence.
Strokey.
For being such a beautiful example of just doing your thing and not worrying about how you look or how you're coming across. Just
even when you dump the flower pot, it's still okay.
That's right, exactly. And
I'm still just going
a decision ages ago, because I've done a lot of work as a spiritual business coach, and I talk about style and presentation. What are you going to do? my choice of this is always to be at my kitchen table, and I made a choice that the cats could be part of it. So it's
I love
like
it.
it is my style. This is total authenticity, you
Love
know.
it.
Yeah. So I'll say namaste, so much love, and thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you, Inara.
See you.